Good to see you guys. Yeah. I don't want to knock anybody's phone off here. All right, good to see everybody. Got a couple days under our belt here, and just trying to ramp up into training camp mode, and we're going. And one of those things where there's no light at the end of the tunnel, Groundhog Day, and just chipping away. So I'll turn it over to you guys. What do you got? Hey, Greg. Good to see you, man. Yeah.
You feel like you've got your stamp on this team yet? It's year 3, right? You've had some guys that you've drafted who are still here. I'm just curious, what do you think about whether the team has taken on your DNA yet?
Yeah, I think what we set out to do is anytime we've added players, and now that we've had 3 cycles to do that, you try to add guys that fit what we're trying to do, not only on the field and off the field. So, Greg, I think when we've gone through 3 cycles, 3 drafts, 3 free agencies, I do feel that we got guys that understand what we're looking to do, how we want to practice, how we want to play, that fit schematically of what we're trying to do. So, we can never have enough of those guys, and I would say, just in the NFL in general, that process never ends, and it will always continue. But, I like the group of guys that we have. They understand what we're trying to be about, and it's a great group. I think our expectations are always high. I think, our expectation is always to go out there, to compete, to win. That was the truth on the first day that we got here, and it's going to be the same every day that we're here. So, our expectations are always going to be high, and, I think the players know that, the coaches know that, our staff knows that. That's something that's never going to change.
Monty, there are a lot of transactions that are going to happen over the next 6 weeks. How do you weigh being patient with guys in-house versus looking external?
Yeah, I think we're constantly a little bit allude to what Greg was talking about. Roster construction never ends, right? And so we're constantly looking at, this time of year, it's players that are still free agents, players that may get let go by other teams. In a few weeks here, our staff will all turn our attention to the pro preseason games. And so, you're at the mercy of what's available, what's out there. And so I think that's a constant, what we're always trying to do. And then that also includes every day evaluating our team. And so, it's a competitive business. It's a competitive to make this team, to make the roster. And our players understand that. Our coaches understand that. And so it's just one of those things that whenever there's a chance to upgrade something that we want to go out and do, we certainly will do that. But right now, our roster is set where it is, and we're going to let those guys go out there and compete.
3 days in, what's catching your eye so far?
Well, it's pretty early, I think it's good to get the guys back out there, good to get the guys, played and picked up the tempo here a little bit the last 2 days. But, until the pads go on, it's we're not really playing football. And so, we got a long way to go. We haven't, we'll get the pads on next week. I think on Monday will be the first day. And it'll be, that's when it really starts to get real. And so the more we can do up until that point, getting acclimated, that's certainly what we're going to do. So we got a long way to go.
You are a very active GM. You're at practice all the time. You're on the field watching things, taking notes, whatnot. Why, first off, when did you decide that was kind of what you wanted your approach to be, and how does that help you do your job?
Well, I think, we've talked about it all the time. It's a constant evaluation process. And so there's nothing more important that we do than practice. And so to be out there firsthand and watching it live and trying to understand, I have a lot to learn. I learn every day from our coaches. I try to understand what we're asking players to do schematically, mentally, so that when I evaluate and when our staff evaluates, that we're evaluating correctly. We may say, hey, this player did something wrong, and the coach is coming, no, he was supposed to do this, somebody else. So that's important. And without being there and being involved and seeing it firsthand, it's hard to get an exact feel for that. And so, doing it live, doing it in practice, seeing guys up close. We can go back and watch the tape. We go back to, this afternoon, tonight, tomorrow morning, we'll watch it multiple times. But there's also value in being up close and seeing guys interact, seeing guys communicate. And that's part of, everything that we're trying to build here. And so it's important. It's important to be out there. And like I said, there's nothing more. The most important thing that we do is practice. I take my little note card back and then review them each night. And anything that I gotta understand better, and I need to get set straight, which is usually a long list. So I daily, go through those and check them off the box. But I got my record keeping. It's not complicated. I'll say that.
Two-parter, when you got
Oh boy, you got it. I'm gonna have to keep two in a row. All right, go ahead.
can repeat this. When you first got here, and your coach, how long did it take you to realize you were going to have to, like, I don't want to say gut, but reconstruct from bottom up a lot of this roster and start over with your picks? But did you know how far into your job tenure did you get when you said, okay, these guys got to go and I've got to bring in new guys? Was that a long process, or could you tell pretty quickly that was going to be your job?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that we set out to do from the start is we needed to create a core of players, okay? And we needed to create a core of players that understood what exactly we wanted to be as a team. And so some of those players were here, and those players are still here, and they've been huge to what we're trying to do. And there was a lot of those players that are new, and you guys have seen there's been a lot of new players, and again, through 3 cycles, that is a group. But there was still a group of guys that bought into what we were saying, believed in what we were saying. Work ethic was already there. We didn't have to do anything. And so, I think that was a goal of ours to set out to do. I think we've added good guys. Like it is important to JG and I to add the right type of people to the locker room so that when we go and tell James Conner, Buda Baker, Kyler, JT, Trey McBride, like all those guys, like we owe it to those guys to bring in the right type of guys. And so that was important, and that was something that we set out to do when we first, to get as many of those guys as we can.
The second part was just part of the core guys. There's only 4 guys left in the draft from previous regimes, not just the last, but the previous, that are still. Are those the four of the core guys you're talking about? They were also under contract, and then you redid Buda.
Sure. And I would say there's been guys that have played for us the last 2 years that, for whatever reason have not, have moved on or whatever it is. But, I think it's not only those guys, but there's been other guys too that have helped us set a standard of what we're looking for. But, those guys that are still here certainly are a big part of what we're doing.
You didn't make any real drastic changes offensively this offseason. Was that a function of, as you looked around the landscape and what you had a chance to do and just where things fell in the draft, that it just changes weren't going to happen? Or was that a function of you looking at the offense saying, we kind of like what we have, we just want to, keep that stability?
I think the answer to that is yes on both accounts. And so, I think when you start, listen, there's the roster building goes on all year, okay? 2 of the big ones were free agency and the draft, okay? Free agency, you are at the mercy of who the free agents are, right? And so, and then on top of that, you go into the whole process of the valuation of the player. Just because you want a player doesn't mean that it's going to work out for them to come here. So, we've set out, the goal of the offseason was to improve the team, period. And so when we got to free agency, it just so happened that the deals that we liked, the deals that we were able to reach, and the supply of players, it fit that most of our additions were on defense. As it pertains to the draft, it's really a similar discussion in that, sure, I would have loved to add offensive players. I really would have. But when we're sitting in the draft and it's our time to pick, like we're 99.9% of the time, we're going to take the highest rated player on the board. And so, for us to go in the draft and sit there and look at our board and say, hey, we got this defensive player graded up here and this offensive player graded down here, it's not, I don't believe in taking the offensive player just to say we took an offensive player. So it just so happened that 6 of our 7 picks, the defensive player was that way. We could go next year, it could go swing back the whole other way. It's just really just more of a product of what was available to us at those times.
This has always felt like a 3-year rebuild, and then last year you guys end up top of the division right before the bye. What did being able to kind of peak like that show you about where the roster was last year, and how did that kind of influence what you were able to do when you did this?
Yeah, I mean, I think we certainly had good moments last year. we took a step from where we were the year before, but not where we want to be. And so, we had a couple of those games coming down the stretch there, didn't go our way, one-score games, final possession. We got to find a way to win those. We got to find a way to get over the hump. But I think we're proud of what we accomplished last year, but quite frankly, it really doesn't mean a thing. Like it as we start right now, what happened last year, what happened 2 years ago, all of us have to reestablish our level of performance, and that starts with myself. It starts with the entire football staff, the coaches, the players. Like we can, it's not like we can just roll the ball out there and say, hey guys, we're going to pick up where we left off last year. So, we made some progress. A lot of guys got a chance to play last year, hoping that guys improve and take the next step. But we got to start. It's what, day 3 now. Like there's no secret sauce. Like we got to reestablish exactly where we want to be.
Go ahead.
Have you gotten the chance to talk to Walter yet, just about how he's doing with the injury, and how disappointing is that for him to be missing out on these first few days?
Yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad. Walt, he was working hard all summer. It's things happen, and his mindset's been great. He is doing everything that he can to get himself back in a position that he can get back out on the practice field. I've seen Walt. I've seen him every day. He's in good spirits. He's focused. He's locked in. He's a constant presence in the meeting rooms, and he's trying to soak in everything that he can without physically being out on the field.
You drafted your job earlier in the spring with free agents drafts. It seems like the focus is all on you, and then now it kind of flips and it's all on the coaches and the guys that have been brought in. Which do you prefer, and kind of how do those two worlds look different for you from day to day?
Yeah, I think I would always prefer the focus not be on me. I'd much rather just be in the shadows there. But it's certainly, Greg, it's, different times of year. It's, my job varies. And, ultimately my job is to, run Michael's organization. It's to serve the coaches, to be a resource for them. JG does a great job of leading his staff, and I'm trying to be a support for him and his staff. And so, they just as in the draft and the free agency process, the coaches have a role in that. My role, and now they come more to the forefront. My role is different now than it is then. But it's the NFL year. It's constant, and we always have something to do. But the more I can stay out of the limelight, I'm all set with that.
You drafted 7 players in the top 90 in 2024. How important is it for those players in particular to take the next step this year?
I think it's huge. Because we always talk about there's no bigger jump that a player can make than year 1 to year 2. Okay. What's asked of rookie players as they come in, that is a monstrous transition, a huge transition, physically, mentally, got to find a new place to live. Like there's so much, and they really don't have much, if any, downtime. So it's like a constant cycle. And so that the second year players that you're referring to, they're coming off really their first break in over, call it 17, 18 months. And that's hard. That's taxing on the body, physically, mentally. And so, now those guys have had a year. They've had a year. They've adapted to the speed of the game. They've had a year to develop their body mentally. It's not as, they have the playbook down. It's more natural for them. And so, just to see those guys just to develop and to be able to, maintain their role, expand their role, that year 1 to year 2 jump, that's one that we hope to see.
Monty, how important was it for you just to get all the rookies signed before camp?
Huge. Yeah, huge. Like, we never want anybody to miss any time. And so to have guys here, not only for the practice time, to be around their teammates, to be around their coaches, it's very important. Very important to get those guys in the building. We had a great spring with all of them, and it was great to have everybody here from day 1.
Building off of that, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the drama happening around the NFL, and obviously the business aspect of the game, and you can't speak to those scenarios, but that hasn't really been a thing here. You had the Buda Baker contract for you guys first got here, but you quickly handled that, and there hasn't really been any drama around that team. How important has it been for you to handle that business, whereas training camp comes around and all the attention is just playing football?
Yeah, I think Donnie, it's there's the business part of it always comes into play, and those things are always, dealing with players' representation. Those are conversations that, a lot of times there's multiple conversations, and you guys don't see that until, the deal gets announced. And so, I'd say it's a tribute to Michael. Michael's been extremely supportive of what we're trying to do here. He's been a great sounding board for me, just working through different scenarios that have come up. And, we're going to continue. Like, every situation is different. And we've just been fortunate that we haven't had, as you said, drama, and I think that's always better. And, when something inevitably comes up, we'll deal with it and we'll work through it. But that's pro football, and that's how it goes.
When it comes to Paris playing one of the foundational positions on offense, going into year 3, you can extend him after this year. What kind of traits do you see in him that show you he can kind of be that long-term asset, a piece of the pillar of this team?
Yeah, sure. I think it starts with the person that Paris is. He's mature, he's accountable, he's dependable. He's been out there for almost every snap since he got here. The way he conducts himself off the field, it starts with that. And I think we feel strongly that Paris is still an ascending player. I don't think he's reached his ceiling yet. He's played well for us. And I think he's going to play even better. So, Paris is about the right stuff, and he's got a great mindset, and he wants to win. And, those are the type of guys that we want around here for a long time.
Why was it important for you to re-sign or bring back Calais Campbell?
Well, he's still playing pretty well, he was a problem for us to block down in Miami last year. I mean, there was one play where he just kind of reached over our whole offensive line and plucked the ball off Kyler. Kyler got it back, made a nice play. But Calais is still, this is not just some farewell homecoming tour. Calais is still playing at a high level. And, Calais is a guy that, you hear these things, and you hear what a great guy he is, and you hear what a true pro he is and how he conducts himself. And, we rely on a lot of hearsay in our business. We rely on what people say. And then to see him come in here and it be, even exceed our expectation has been really cool. And so we're excited for Calais to come in here. He's going to be a big part of what we're doing defensively. He's going to bring length, disruptiveness, size, pass rushing ability, run stopping ability. And, we're just happy that it worked out to bring him in here.
A lot was made of Will Johnson's medical, which potentially led to him falling to you guys at pick 47. How much of a relief is it now you fast forward to training camp and you got him out there with your guys?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think for any rookie player, it's hard to miss time. And so, Will's done a great job of getting himself in a position to go out there and compete. He's had a good couple of days here. He stacked a few days together. And so that's great to see. And, I think for anybody, the clock is ticking on earning roles and carving out responsibilities on the team. And so the more available that you can be, and for Will, and no matter who it is, for those guys to be out here and earning trust of their teammates and their coaches, that's only going to help them moving forward. So, to have Will and all our guys that are out there, to be out there, that's huge for us as a team and for them personally as well.
With the lack of offensive additions that you were talking about earlier, one area where that kind of stands out is the interior of the offensive line. What's your comfort level with that group, both the starters and then the depth that you have at those 3 spots?
Yeah, I think we have a good group up there. I think we have a good group that's played a lot of ball. I mean, Isaiah Adams got in there late in the season and got some really good experience to play. And so, Evan, Yelda, those guys have been in there, played a lot of ball for us. And then, behind them, there's a good competition of guys to sort out. And so, I think that's going to be a competitive area. I think we had a draft pick. We added some undrafted guys, brought in a couple pro free agents. And so, there are going to be some guys in there that I think that competition is going to be tough going through. But we're very happy with that group, and I think it's going to be a competitive group here through August.
What are your thoughts about Harrison? We've heard him compared to some other wide receivers who were drafted in the same class, maybe had more yards or whatever. Are you pleased with the work ethic and the production?
I am extremely pleased with Marvin. Marvin is everything we thought he would be. Marvin's professionalism, maturity, it's out off the charts. And so, there was pretty historic year last year for some rookie wide receivers. I mean, Marvin was right there. Marvin had a productive year. And he's another player that we've talked about the year 1 to year 2 jump. We're expecting great things from Marvin. So, I mean, I don't know if there was a day this offseason he wasn't around, putting the time in, putting the work in, and I really think it's going to show this year, and it's going to just pick up where he left off last year.
With Kyler heading into year 7,
Monty, we'll make this the last one.
one playoff appearance. Is this as important as a year for him as there ever has been? He said he's feeling kind of, maybe not the pressure, but it's kind of the stress of getting older and kind of the years are fewer ahead. And, is this as important of a year for him, as crucial of a year as he's had?
I mean, I think for all of us, there's no more important year than the one we're in. And so, I think that's the case every year that we go in. I think that's the business that we're a part of, and that's the way it should be. And so, I think there's nobody that has higher expectations for, this group than, we all have those expectations. And so, I think we're all through the off season, through the OTAs, and now through camp. Like, that's why we do this. That's why we put the time in. And, that pressure is good. And so, I think all of us, it's the NFL. And so there's a pressure to perform every day. There's a pressure to, show our teammates, show our coaches that we belong. And I don't think that's ever going to change no matter what year it is. So, guys, thank you. It's good seeing everybody. Yep, we'll see you around. You bet.